You're recording. Do you want to pause it?
What do you think, Kath? Ready to go?
I think we're ready.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. So right now we have 74 people on this Zoom, which I think is fantastic. One of the pandemic perks that I think we've had is that we found out that this is a great way for us to reach people and have participation. I know at our school board meetings, we've never had more participation than we have since we've gone to this mode of communication. And I'm really appreciative that you all are here to take your time out of your evening to listen to Kathy and I. So first off, welcome. I said to Kathy today, I think this has been a long time since we've done one of these. It feels like it's been a long time, although it hasn't been that long, but it's probably long overdue. I'm Andy Carlton. I'm the superintendent of schools, and I'll let Kath introduce herself.
I'm Kathy Martin. I'm the director of curriculum assessment and instruction.
And I know that this has been a trying year for everyone, and I can't thank you all enough for your support, for your kind words, for supporting your children's teachers, the community messages, things like that. We've all had a rough go of it over the last year and a half, and I just, one of the things that I really enjoy is the RSU 4 family. So just a couple of housekeeping things for tonight. I do have the chat off currently, but we'll open it up when it's time for question and answer. Kathy and I have some information to give, and then we'll open it up for that. One of the things I will ask is when we do have questions, I'd like you to raise your hand once we get to that point and just identify yourself and say where you're from. So the first thing that we want to talk about tonight, I want to do a brief overview of the proposed FY22 budget. So the fiscal year 22 budget. One of the things that we knew going into this work, and I have to say, I have to credit our staff, our administrators, and really the school board for really kind of digging down, taking a look at our budget, what we need to provide supports for kids. At the end of the day, I think we've put together a very, the best budget we can given the circumstances that we were working under. So with that, I'm just going to take some time and go through it. One of the things to note is that this year, if anybody remembers, last year, we did not hold a district budget meeting. So that was per the governor's order that we had the opportunity to go directly to referendum. But as part of that, we had to provide an opportunity for the community to give feedback. That same process is in place this year. And so I will, if you go to our website on the budget page on the website, you'll see this PowerPoint that I'm about to show. You also will see a link to a Google form to give us some budget feedback so we can share that with the board. The other thing is the budget book should be going out in the mail over the course of the next week. You'll be getting that. There is a page you can tear off and send back to us with some feedback. So, and excuse March 10th, that's when I made the last presentation to the board. So the proposed FY22 budget. So first of all, our mission statement, inspiring all learners for future success. So just a moment to take a look at 5 years of expenditure budgets. If you remember correctly, our budget is made up of two portions. There's the expenditure side and the revenue side. If you look over the course of the last 5 years, 5 years ago, our budget was 18.799 million. It then took a step backwards in FY18. And it's been kind of up and down depending on certain factors, staffing, things like that. And like I said, this is on the website for you all to see. One of the things that we know that drives our state aid is our town valuations. The higher your valuation goes, the less you tend to get in state aid, depending on where, how much money they put into essential programs and services funding model. So as you can see in our 3 towns, and we are not unlike a lot of the RSUs around, our valuations have gone up significantly over the course of the last 5 years. If you look, Litchfield's valuation is up 19.2% over the course of the last 5 years. Sabattis is up 19.8%, and Wales is up 25.6%. As we all know, the housing market is booming. Things are selling like crazy. I know that houses in my neighborhood recently have been going $50,000 to $70,000 over asking price or more. Obviously, this is a really big driver. The state uses this number, a couple of year average of this number, to produce what's called the required local share. We have no control over this. This is not something that we have any control over at all. We are at the mercy of the state. They set the valuations and we have to abide by them. So general purpose aid. General purpose aid is split into two portions. So there's the state portion of it and the required local share. So basically, for us to receive our state aid, the towns are required to pay this amount of money. And so if you look in the current, in FY21, we received $10,986,741 in state aid. But to get that state aid, the 3 towns were required to pay over $6 million. These 2 numbers make up what's called the EPS funding model. If you notice, as the years have gone on, our 3 towns have had to pay more. And if you see here, over the course of the last few years, our funding has gone down some. We were up and down. One of the hard parts of putting together budgets is really figuring out how to mitigate losses in state aid. So over the last 4 years, I think it's important to note that the RSU, over the last 4 years, local taxes are actually, from the RSU, the assessments are lower than they were 4 years ago. Obviously, they've been on the incline the last couple of years, but over the course of the last 4 years, taxes are down in all 3 towns as far as from the RSU's assessment. So proposed FY22 operating budget. So if you look at this, we are proposing a $19,557,484 operating budget for this coming year. That is 0.02% less than last year, or $3,849. This has been a long process. We start this process actually in central office. We start this in probably November. Once we get to December, our building administrators are to have passed in their requests. We then start working on, as an administrative team, on the budget, and we really focus on what do we need. We are not in a situation, there are always things that we want, but at the end of the day, it's really what we need. So when we did the first draft of the budget, we were looking at a loss in state funding of $774,000. And really it comes down to our enrollments. So we were down enrollments in pre-kindergarten, down enrollments in special education, and down enrollments in disadvantaged youth. That first run of the budget, the expenditure side, so the revenue side was down $774,000 and the expenditure side was up $575,000. I think it's important to note when we started this, there was nothing new in the budget other than the payment for the phase 2 performance contract. All of the rest of the increases were contracted salary and benefits. If we had taken that budget, if the board had approved that budget, if you look down at the bottom here, this would have been the increases to the towns year over year. A 17% increase to Litchfield, a 20.8% increase to Sabattis, and a 22.8% increase to Wales. Obviously, we know that we cannot pass on an increase like that. So we rolled up our sleeves as an administrative team and as a board and really tried to get this budget to a place on the expenditure side to mitigate some of the losses on the revenue side. So again, it's a $3,849 decrease over last year. If you notice, when I showed you the last slide, our variances were up, 17, 18, 20, 22%. This budget, as we are proposing it, comes to a 3.1% increase to Litchfield, a 4.5% increase to Sabattis, and a 5.5% increase to Wales. Or the total variance to the three towns is $340,858. So how did we get here? First of all, one of the things I think it's important to note is that the RSU is whole at this point. So for a long time, we've carried a negative fund balance for the last probably 10 years. We've done a really good job of paying that down, and it's now whole, and we have some carry forward funds. Basically, that's the unspent funds from the year prior. I will say our budget runs almost 99% efficient. When we get our audits, one of the things the auditors always tell the board is no other school district that they audit only carries over about 1%, 1.5%.
Yeah.
Unmute yourself, Andy.
I'm not sure how that happened. I apologize. So one of the things, we did get a $100,000 grant from the state of Maine for the water project at the high school. So we'll be rolling that in as well. But we had to make some significant cuts or move some over to our ESSER funds, our COVID relief funds. So we made, in this budget, we had carry forward funds of $400,000 on the revenue side, and we cut or moved to our COVID funds $707,000. We cut a technology position. We moved that to the ESSER funds. We did cut a position at the high school. Our fuel costs, supplies for maintenance. I don't need to read it all, but it's all there. This budget actually cuts or moves over 5 positions, which, we never like to cut positions, but at the end of the day, we take a hard look at our enrollments and what do we need to educate our students. So what does this mean? What this means is the impact. So I talked about what, $117,000 to Litchfield, $153,000 and change to Sabattis, and $70,000 for Wales. If you look down below that, you can see what the impact would have been had we brought the first draft out to the communities. We've done, I credit the board, we made some hard decisions and really kind of slashed these numbers down. The impact. So I like to use a $100,000 home. Obviously, I know many homes are worth more than that, but it's a nice round number. So if you own a $100,000 home in Litchfield, your taxes from the RSU will go up $32 next year if this budget passes, $32.21 or $2.68 a month. In Sabattis, it's $52.98 or $4.42 per month. And in Wales, $59.74 or $4.98 per month. So, and just lastly, when thinking about the budget, due to the inability to hold a district budget meeting because of the pandemic, we would like to get your feedback on the budget. So if you go to our website, there is the budget feedback form. I encourage you to fill that out. I encourage you to fill out, if you don't want to go to the feedback form, when you get the budget book, to fill that out. And certainly, if you have questions about the budget, you're more than welcome to call central office. I'm more than happy to sit down and have conversations about the budget. So that is the proposed FY22 budget. I will turn it over to Kathy.
I'm going to switch gears and talk about our collaborative planning team. So I think around the district, there's a misnomer that Andy or the board have made all the decisions regarding how we have moved forward with COVID. So I just want to kind of talk about what our process is and what our team looks like. So last spring, so if I kind of rewind back to spring of 2020, the DOE gave us a framework to reopen schools in the fall. At that time, we made various teams, 4 big teams of different stakeholders that looked at all of the guidelines of the DOE and made recommendations. The recommendations went to this collaborative planning team, which we call the CPT team. This district-wide team, again, has community members, and we are expanding who will be on our collaborative planning team to help us with our fall planning. However, the recommendations are kind of sifted through this collaborative planning team, and then recommendations go to the board. Then the board makes a final say. So that was kind of what we did to get ready for this past school year. Throughout the school year, this collaborative planning team has been meeting at least once a month, if not more. We typically look at updates that are continuously come from the CDC and the DOE. We look at situations or concerns of our staff and our students or parents that have been brought to us. And we sometimes only have 2 topics, and today I think we had 12. And we then look at what the impact is to the RSU 4, and we try to make determinations that have the least impact to our students and staff, and we bring those recommendations back to the board. There's a process to make any change or formal change to our plan that was voted by the board last August. So we do have a plan for the fall, and our process that we're going to move forward to is the CPT has a draft plan that will go to the board, and we will then send it out to all stakeholders. So community members, students, staff will have a chance to look at our plan and give us feedback on that draft plan. The CPT team will review all the suggestions from all the various stakeholders and make adjustments as long as they still fit in the guidelines of the DOE and CDC requirements. Of course, our last guidance that we got from the DOE was on April 28th, which gave us some really good insight of finally gave us some insight of what the fall will look like and what some of the guidance will look like. That's kind of helped guide what our fall plan and proposal is. Once we have DOE recommendations, the CPT will then make adjustments and send the draft to the board for final approval, and then we'll communicate it again out to community members. So we do have a draft of our plan. It is going to the board next week, and then it will go out to get their feedback to make any suggestions or changes, and then we will get stakeholders' opinions about everything that is part of that draft. Andy, you want to talk a little specifically about the fall plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I think everybody needs to know is that we are committed to getting back in 5 days a week in the fall. I recognize, being the father of I have 2 daughters and 2 stepsons, and I recognize they are all in a hybrid model, and I recognize how hard that is on all of you, how hard that is on our staff, and how hard it is on them. And so we are working really hard to put plans together. And like Kathy said, we're actually expanding the CPT team to include a few more stakeholders, but we are committed to that. I am committed to that. I know this year has been rough, and I get that. One of the questions I asked was, what's different? What'll be different about next year? One of the things I think you all need to hear is that, I think it's well out there now that we're reorganizing some things around the school district. Reorganization is really the catalyst by which we're going to be able to do this and address the social distancing issues we're currently working under. Right now in K-8, if we were to bring everybody back, our class sizes would be 20 to 25. And there's just not enough room in our classrooms for that amount of students to be able to address social distancing. However, with our reorganization, our class sizes will be significantly reduced to 15 or 20. Once you put all staff together like that, we're able to do far more creative things. K-8. The other thing is the high school is looking at their course selection and room assignments to adjust for space for the fall to make sure we can get everybody back in. I know we're having a lot of talk about lunches and things like that. And again, as Kathy said, we've got kind of a draft framework, but we want some feedback from all of you. And then the CPT team will take that feedback to then revamp the plan or work on the plan and then bring it back to the board for approval. One of the things that I think you all need to know is one of the biggest barriers that we run into at this point is transportation. Our buses, we can only fit so many people on our buses. And one of the things with the state plan is that it's not recommended to fill a bus to capacity. Well, a lot of our buses, if we put everybody in, are filled to capacity. And so one of the things that we've done is, as moving 5th grade to the middle school, will then reduce some pressure on the elementary runs. And so Glenn and his team are looking at how we can revamp some of those runs. That'll also be a conversation at CPT team. One of the things to look for in the future, we will potentially be sending out a survey regarding how your children are going to get to school next year. If you can transport, we'd like to know that. Obviously, we're running buses, but if you can transport, we're going to want to know that. So be on the lookout for transportation, a transportation survey as well. Again, I can't reiterate enough that 5 days a week is the goal for the fall. Our kids need it, you all need it, and our communities need it. And I am committed to that. And I know, and I don't want to speak for the board because I don't speak for the board, but I know the board is also committed to that as well. They recognize that we need to do that and understand that, the reorganization plan is going to significantly help us in the future. I think it's also important to note, I've heard a lot of things about restructuring. So currently we're in reorganization, but then the next phase would be restructuring. And what we're doing now is working through the process of putting an addition on the middle school. If you were at the last board meeting, we had a presentation from an architect. I think one of the things that's out there is that we're closing buildings, and why are we doing that if we need more space? The reality is we are talking about closing buildings, but it's not like we won't be creating that space in another building. At the end of the day, what we're looking to do is reduce the number of buildings that we have to take care of. Libby Tozier and Sabattis Primary are older buildings that need a lot of work to bring up to where they need to be for 2021. And so I think if you go to our website, you can look at, I've done some presentations on reorganization and restructuring, but at the end of the day, when we do build that addition, we will still have space. It'll just be in different places, and we'll be maintaining 3 buildings and transporting to 3 buildings instead of currently maintaining 5 buildings and transporting to 5. So, I can't say it enough. I know that we need to be in 5 days a week in the fall, and that is our goal. So Kathy, you want to talk about the process?
Yeah, so just to be clear about what our timeline and process, and you unfortunately will see a lot of surveys or opportunities out there to kind of get feedback. So as Andy alluded to, you'll have an opportunity to give feedback on the budget. You'll have an opportunity to give us feedback on the fall plan, and you'll have an opportunity to give us feedback on transportation ideas. So our timeline is we are presenting a draft plan to the school board next Wednesday. We will make adjustments based on their feedback on Thursday and hopefully send out to stakeholders, students, staff, and community members on May 14th. At that point, you will have attached a survey that will allow you to kind of give us your feedback. That collaborative planning team will look and review all of your suggestions and concerns. We are also committed to have a frequently asked question sheet on our website. So things that are continuously coming up, we will address on that frequently asked question, and there will be a link on the plan as well to access those. The collaborative planning team is going to meet again on May 27th to review some feedback. So the turnaround is quite quick, but we're hoping to get as much information as quickly as possible. Certainly the community members have been asking us, well, where's your plan? What are you going to do? And so we want to kind of turn around and have a plan as best we can. So we are trying to do a quick turnaround in the next couple of weeks. And so to make sure that you're staying connected, please continue to look at our website. We are also videoing our collaborative planning team meetings, and we will be posting those as well for full transparency. You can hear the conversations, even though you can't attend them. So we'll continue to post everything on the website as we go forward.
Yeah, and I think it's important too, what we post on the website, we'll also post on our social media sites as well. So if you watch our Facebook page and things like that, we'll have those up there. That really kind of concludes the information that we wanted to share. Oh, sorry.
Right.
Oh, Kathy has one more thing. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to mention in the midst of, before we talk about fall, I want to talk about summer. So questions about summer school in our RISE program. So we have been doing lots of planning and coordinating, and we took all the parents who have signed up for our RISE. We have coordinated with transportation in our Camp 44 and our special ed ESY, and are able to offer up to two sessions for our students who have signed up. Letters are going to go home next week about determining what sessions your children are invited to. Again, we still have to follow those COVID regulations, so there's not really any wiggle room in terms of sessions because all our sessions are full. We will have our secretaries our administrative assistants will be calling parents just to confirm addresses if you want to transport or if you want RSU for transportation. We just recognize that in the summer, sometimes daycares and other children go to different places in the summer than they do during the year. So we just want to verify where the children will be picked up. We will have a letter that goes home with start and end times, what a sample schedule will look like, and communication of information for your child for that session. So that will be coming in the next week or two. So expect a phone call and a letter for those families that have signed up for our Camp RISE. Now,
right.
Andy.
Now you're done. All right. Thank you. So now, obviously, we're going to open it up to some questions. Certainly, so that you know, some questions have answers, some don't. If we can't answer them now, we're going to keep a copy of all the questions, and we'll find the answer if we can't. So
and
what I've done,
the frequently asked question sheet.
Yep,
so
they will go on. Yep, they will go on there. So what I've done is turned on the chat. It'll come directly to Kathy and I, and then I can call on you. So I do have somebody in the chat who'd like to ask a question. Laura, if you want to take off your microphone and introduce yourself, tell us where you're from. No? Laura Clifford, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Okay. So Laura Clifford from Sabatis. We had two kids that were in the district that we did pull out, and so we're very interested in the plan in the fall to either re-enlist them or approach our options at that time. So I just took down a couple of notes while we rambled through this, and I just had a couple of questions that I hope I can get some answers for. I didn't know how much. I saw we'll start with Andy's kind of first go with that. I didn't know, I heard the $100,000 grant for the water. Was there any other grants that the district obtained to help offset some of that impact?
Sure. So we did receive federal grant money through the COVID relief funds. A lot of that money has been spent to open up and buy things that we needed to get open this fall and purchase things ahead. We also, if you notice on the presentation, we're using some of those funds to cover some costs of the increases in the budget. The dangerous situation with that is creating a cliff. Things that we cover now with those funds really then could have the potential to come back into the regular budget later on and have a direct impact on taxes. So we've been trying to be really proactive and buying things ahead that may impact the budget later on, so that we can mitigate sharp increases now and into the future.
And what was that total dollar that the district got for that COVID money?
Oh, I don't, honestly, Laura, I don't know that off the top of my head. I can get that for you though.
A few of our board members are on. Does any of them have that number? I felt like when I saw it before, it was 2.4 million, but
Yeah, it was around that, but I don't, yeah, it was around 2.4. There is another round coming, but we haven't received that yet.
so roughly 2.4 is what we received, and we're expecting more.
Yep, there is another round coming potentially. The problem with the first couple of rounds where there was very stringent rules on where it could be spent, how it could be spent, and what it could be spent on. Everything had to be tied back to COVID. And so trying to get really creative to do that.
Andy and I did talk about having a sheet that talked about what we got and how we spent it, and we'll add that to the budget piece portion of the website.
Yep.
And then I just wasn't sure if you knew what the dollar amount per kid that the state contributes. Is it 12,000, 13,000-ish?
It's around 7,900 for a high school student and 7,500, I think. I'd have to pull up the 279 for elementary students.
And kids have to be enrolled by what date in order for the district to obtain that money?
October 1.
So if kids are not enrolled by October 1, the district would lose that funding for that student.
They would lose. We would lose it on the student count. I mean, there are other factors that go into creating that dollar figure, but yes, we would lose the student count.
Okay, thanks. And then another question I had was that we heard throughout the year, because I was very involved with the school board meetings and going to those and speaking at those, and honestly, I don't feel like it helped at all, besides me losing sleep. But obviously, because we pulled our kids. But one of the things we consistently heard is we don't have the space. And you and I had talked about that before. And you go, we don't have the space. I go, well, there's Wales Town office, all these, whatever. And you said, well, I don't have teachers to put there. Well, then now it's a problem with transportation and the buses. And so I guess I'm super confused on what your real problem is with getting kids back in school full time. But even more than that, I'm concerned as I've seen kind of things pop out about we don't have enough subs, we don't have this, we don't have that. Do you feel like in the fall the district will be able to accommodate those problems that you've had for the last 2 years with staffing, whether it's with the teachers, the subs, or the bus drivers? Do you feel like you guys have a good plan on that?
Well, I think, to answer your question, Laura, one of the things, staffing is always hard. Trying to make sure, you advertise for positions. If you don't get applicants, it's very difficult. All school districts are hurting for subs. But I believe, at our current staffing level with the reorganization that we are going to be able to do that. One of the things that we've done is we're trying to figure out how to add a couple of drivers to reduce the runs. Glenn is working on that, and all that will come through the CPT team.
So then that's my next page is for Kathy here. So I appreciate that there is a plan coming out and going to the board for the May 14th. Is that something that the board is going to specifically discuss at that school board meeting that we can listen into, or will it be, I know sometimes it's in your packet is used, that term, it's in your packet, and not anything is really talked about during public session on that. Is that something that we'll be able to hear on that May 14th meeting, or do you not think that parents and community members will hear that plan at that time?
No, it is an agenda item on the next board meeting, so you'll be able to hear the plan as well as hear the feedback from our school board. And then the plan will be rolled out. So we're going to roll it out with the school board on Wednesday, and then we'll share the updated plan on Friday with all community members.
And I think it's important to note too, we're not asking the board to approve the plan on next week. We're just asking for some feedback, so then we can then take it out to the communities to get feedback, so we can then work on it. The board will then approve it at a later date.
So our staff, for the staff that are on, the staff will also get it ahead of time, as well as the school board, so they can peruse it before.
So just personally, as a parent, I appreciate that the community and parents will have some input on it. I know that we had several what were they, Google something last year, and I really don't feel like a lot of those were really taken seriously, maybe, but so I appreciate that anyway. It would be great to know, and obviously you can't give us that date now, but what the final is approved, because, you know, as we try to make plans for our whatever best fits our situations in the fall, you know, we want to make sure that we're having time to enroll and get prepared, or, you know, if people are going to homeschool or, you know, whatever like that, you know, we just want to make sure we have time to do those things, as well as I'm sure the district would like to have time to make sure that they're able to accommodate the kids coming back and things as well. So, and it's great. It's been 2 years essentially that's been in planning, so that's great. That's finally coming out. The next thing I had was just that you had mentioned that there's going to be 20 to 25 kids, maybe 15 kids. And I didn't see a significant increase in teachers, so it's going to be interesting to see how you guys split those kids up, because that was one of our concerns, is that we've heard a lot of movement or potential movement happening, and it's concerning if we do enroll our kids in the district in the fall, it's concerning that we're looking at classrooms of 30 or 35 kids, because when we were in the district, there was 28 kids in our daughter's class. So it's just, if teachers are moving or terminating contracts from the district, it would be concerning to have those kind of numbers increasing as well. So I don't know, is that something we would know kind of in that plan as well, is the expected class sizes with the students, or?
So I will say, here's what our process has been. I want to be clear that without the reorganization, our class sizes have currently, on average, been 20 to 25. So yes, in certain classes, they've been a little bit 28, there's been 18 and such. With the reorganization, we're averaging between 15 and 20. When we're looking at this, we are also looking at potentially remembering that our friends that left us, so your children included, Laura, planning to come back. So with the reorganization, our class sizes are reduced the way we're reallocating the resources. Our administrators have done a great job of going room to room and determining, based on the social distancing, how many students can fit into a room based on following the guidelines. And then they looked at our enrollment and figured out how many students will be in that room for all their class periods. We have been able to show that no matter what it is, in pre-K through 12, we'll be able to fit our students with the reorganization, especially at pre-K 8, into our buildings going forward. And that is reducing our class sizes. So we're not concerned. We have planned, we have mapped it out. We have done it, I think, triple checked it millions of times to get that plan. So we are prepared, Laura, for that. So I don't know what else to kind of say. It is different at different grade spans about what that class size is, if it's closer to 15 or if it's closer to 20. It just depends on the grade level. So
also to follow up on that, my children were in the district, their 3rd and 5th grade, and they were in the district until January, but not one year in their entire education did they have less than 25 kids in their class. So I don't know how we were the lucky ones to have that many, but and great teachers. We've had a lot of great experiences, but in 6 years essentially of RSU 4, not one class was under 25. So I guess my last question would be, with this plan that is coming out in a few months, have you contacted other districts? There's all the districts around us, or quite a few districts around us, are in person, and they've made it work, and they've done all those things. And have we talked with them to see how they've made it work? And not one of the other concerns is that the kids go back to school in the fall, and they're going to be hybrid. Their teachers are going to be exposed, and they're going to be remote learning again, and kind of thinking throughout the school year what that learning experience will be like. Same thing with like snow days and things like that. So have we used the experience of some of the other districts that have already been remote Lisbon for the entire year to help ensure that we have maybe some of those kinks worked out?
So I have a meeting almost daily with other districts in our region, as well as other districts across the state that are similar size, and which has helped develop the draft that we're kind of preparing for. There are things that other districts can do that we can't do, and there are things that we can do that other districts can't do. Again, we go through that whole plan and that process at our CPT team. So it's not just one or two of us that are making these decisions. We go through what are the guidelines and what are our capacities, and the best way we can support the educational experience for our students and staff. We certainly have learned a lot this year. We are continuously to look at what we can improve and how we can make the reopening plan the best possible plan to make sure that we're 5 days in person. But please know we have done our homework. We are in communication and we're figuring out how to do that. And those other districts have their own woes and their own challenges as well. So no district has become unscathed through this COVID transition. So we certainly have lived and learned, and we're going to do the best we can for the fall.
Thank you.
I think
Right.
Stephanie Stevens has the next.
What's that?
Stephanie Stevens has the next question.
Okay.
If Stephanie, you could unmute yourself.
I didn't have a question. I was just stating I think that you guys have done a great job, and we just look forward really to the fall. And I think that everybody is really looking forward to putting these kids back into school 5 days a week. But I think that we as parents also have to understand that it's a process, and that there's a lot of, behind the scenes that happens that we don't know about. And if there are questions that we can definitely reach out to you guys and get answers to. I know that I've had questions. I have a 5th grader who is ultimately just struggling right now. And I've reached out to you, Kathy. I've reached out to you, Andy. And you guys have definitely gotten back to me very quickly. I think that it takes time, it takes patience, but I think we as a strong community can definitely just keep pushing forward. That's about it.
Thank you, Stephanie. And certainly we want to have a plan in place and have a draft. But as throughout the summer goes along, we know that there'll be new guidance from the DOE. So we'll keep updating the parents as quickly as possible. But the faster we can get a draft to all of you, you can start making plans for your own families and own children, for sure.
I have some questions in the chat here. I think we can answer. I can read them and answer. So Isha Hart said, so have the parents who are signed up for RISE been contacted, or is that what the letter is that will be coming home?
The letter will be coming home regarding who got in for what session. So yes, if you filled out the survey asking to be RISE, then you got in. So if you did it before April 2nd, and then we've been doing our work to make sure siblings are together, making sure transportation's there and food and special ed and all of the things that coordinate, and also making sure we have our COVID numbers. So you will get a letter confirming, but if you requested it and asked to be part of RISE, you are in for up to 2 sessions.
All right. Jessica asks, will the CDC 3-foot and 6-foot rules still be what decides the fall in person? That is a piece of all sorts of things. Obviously, those are still in play, but as we talked about earlier, with the reorganization and shrinking our class sizes, with that, the 3-foot and 6-foot rules become significantly easier. David asks, what are the thoughts around encouraging requiring vaccinations? So one of the things that I've been really clear about is I'm not getting involved in requiring vaccinations. That's a state function. Right now, the state has a new immunization law that's gone on the books. That is a conversation that's gone on at the state level, and they will tell us what that looks like. Let's see, we've got a hand up, Beth.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We
Yes.
can.
Okay. I have 3 questions, but I need to be kidless. Bear with me. The first question was, and it maybe tags on to what you just had talked about. How, if at all, does increased vaccinations change the school's response?
So I
Well,
will
Or
say,
does it?
Oh, go
I
ahead.
can give an example of this week. So for this week, for example, we had a case at the middle school, and luckily for us, our staff members that were considered close contacts were vaccinated, which meant they didn't have to quarantine.
Right.
If they were not vaccinated, we probably would have had some of our either a grade level or a portion of that grade level be remote, because we can't have some students in the teachers remote. So we're starting to see more and more of our eligible, that if they so choose to be vaccinated. So what's happening with what we're seeing is that there's an opportunity for less quarantine. So that's the impact we have. But again, as Andy said, we are not requiring that. We
But
do.
in terms, sorry, in terms of, everybody's talking about that 5 days a week rollout, does it effectuate the spacing? 'Cause it sounds like the spacing and transportation is the big issue. So with more vaccinated, staff, and I'm not even clear when pediatric vaccinations are available, but as that progresses, does that change your parameters of what you have to follow?
It does not. So the social distancing, the 3 feet and the 6 feet does not change whether you're vaccinated or not.
Okay.
It just affects how many people become a close contact and have to quarantine.
Okay.
We're addressing the physical distancing or the social distancing through the reorganization and our scheduling at the high school for courses. And then the transportation, we still need to look at of some other resources that we can employ. But we're just thinking if this is a community effort, then maybe some will not make it such a hurdle to get more kids on the bus.
And some of that too will get dictated by the state. As more vaccinations happen. I mean, we don't know when someone's been vaccinated at this point. We're not asking that question until we have a close contact situation. So the state, as more people are vaccinated throughout the state, I'm hopeful that restrictions will get lifted, but I just don't know. That's what they do. So
I didn't quite understand Kathy's last comment. If it's a community effort, I'm sorry, where were you going with that?
I just meant that, we're all trying to get our kids back in for 5 days a week, and
Yeah.
we're creating some plans. But if there's opportunities for a team of parents to carpool, or
Yeah.
Parents to choose to not use the bus and be able to bring their kids, it may make this situation a little easier and lighten our load for the transportation. So we're just saying, it's just like COVID, this whole piece is a community effort to reduce spread. And we're
Yes.
saying the solution to get to 5 days might be a community response. And so if there's ways that the community members can maybe step up or help out and come up with creative ways, we're willing to listen. We're willing to think outside the box. And so I was just saying that maybe it's a community solution, not just as a school solution.
Thank you for explaining that. I only mention it because I know I'm in my personal situation, and I've heard from others that the before care, after care, that's a whole swath of families that would be dropping off and picking up. But where it's only 2 days a week versus for the 5 days, they have to still have daycare. So they just choose to not pursue the before care, after care until it goes 5 days a week. So just something to keep in mind as you're, quantifying the various variables that you have to look at. That's just another point. That's all.
I appreciate that. I will record that and kind of look into that. I will say, I think one of the reasons why Lisbon was able to, get into 5 days is they had a lot of parents who chose not to do the bus piece and transport. And so that also alleviated that.
I think we have that. I can't speak for anybody, just, the tones of the small patch of people that I know. I don't know a ton of people around, but I have heard that, a lot of people would be willing to do that if it meant the 5 days. So it's just, exactly what you're doing, like pitching things and pitching ideas. We're one of those families that certainly could do that. But it's tough with the half weeks, where you have to pay for full-time care regardless. And then you'd have to pay additional before care, after care for, 2 days. Like my daughter, who's 17, went to before care, after care. So we never did the bus till she was probably in like 6th, 7th grade. It's just something to consider, was my only point. And this isn't a plea for you guys to please just take my point and do it. It's just something to think about, is there are families who utilize those programs that would not be utilizing buses.
And I certainly agree with you, having an 8-year-old in my house, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The report that you guys were talking about, this is question 2. Forgive me, I don't remember the MPB, wherever your council is getting a plan.
Mhm.
I think you had said they're going to review it. And once they review it, then they're going to kick it out to the public. And then once they get feedback, they're going to make a final decision. Do I have the process correct?
Yeah, so it's going to go to school board and staff, on Wednesday. We'll get feedback. So they'll kind of get to see it. We'll get feedback on the draft. The draft will go out again. Draft will go out next Friday to get feedback from all our stakeholders. And then our hope is that we get the feedback on, if we can, we have a schedule for May 27th to look at that and start collecting the feedback and then making suggestions to go forward.
What's a stakeholder?
So students, staff, parents, community members,
sorry.
anybody and anyone. So we'll push it out, throw it out there and see who wants to give us feedback or things to consider.
Okay. And last one, this is nothing to do with the COVID stuff. Did I hear you say that the camp for the summer was full?
I do have a few slots, but for the most part, we are almost at capacity in some grade levels. So if you do have an interest, feel free. I can always look into it. I may not be able to offer 2 sessions, but I might be able to sneak in one. So just reach out to me or your building administrator, and we'll figure it out.
Good enough. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. All right, Tucker is up next.
This is his mom. I don't know why his name comes up. So I'm fairly new to the district. I moved here 4 months ago. So I kind of am a little lost on some of this, but so the restructuring, what schools are switching?
Sure. So what will, for next year, pre-K and K will be at Libby Tozier. Grades 1 and 2 will be at Sabatis Primary, 3 and 4 at Carrie Ricker, 5 through 8 at the middle school, and 9 through 12 at the high school.
Okay, so I was thinking that you were saying like we were condensing to 3 schools instead of 5.
Not for next year. That's down the road. We're in the process of doing that, but we're still, working through that. We recently interviewed architects to look at an addition, but before we can do that, we'll have to have a school closure vote at the board level. It'll then have to go to referendum. We'll also have to do a referendum for a bond. So we're probably a couple of years away from building an addition at this point.
Okay, so that's more down the road.
Yep.
And is this current restructuring going on for the fall? Is that like just solely because of COVID, or that's something that will stay even after COVID, or what are the thoughts with that?
We've been talking about reorganizing, especially in our pre-K2 world, because we have a little bit more flexibility with resources and class sizes for and getting our staff under the same roof and providing the same educational experience. So this has been a conversation we've had for a couple of years now. I would say 4. We've been brainstorming. This has been a great opportunity during the COVID to help with the restructuring helps with the social distancing. But for a big piece of this, I would just say it's really just about helping our students and really making sure that we're allocating our resources and giving the best educational experience. And so although it is responsive during COVID, we also need to look at a lot of our students would be transitioning to a new building anyway. So there's not that much impact this year in terms of making this change now, between the amount of students that would be making a change to a new building and a normal transition like 2 to 3, as well as our cohort D kids, as well as the amount of students that were homeschooled. We actually are doing less impact for this year than we do it on a normal year. So it just made sense to kind of to do it this coming fall.
I do agree that it makes sense to, do the less impact where there's less kids right now attending. I guess I'm just concerned about, if this is going to stay for a while, or if then, they're going to be switching schools the previous year. I'm just thinking long term, like how many schools are these kids going through?
Sure. I think at this point that, I can safely say that the plan is this will be our structure moving forward until we have an addition at the middle school and we can close 2 buildings.
Okay. So the thought is that you do want to close the Libby Tozier and the Sabattis Elementary.
Yep. Yeah. In the future. Yes, for sure. But again, that's a process. The board will have to vote on that, and that will then go out to referendum in the communities.
Okay. And I don't know how anyone else feels about the pickup. I pick up in the afternoons. And it's very helpful to not have to go into the school. I am very appreciative of that part. The drive up service is very handy. But I guess my concern is that going forward, if that does stay, or if we get rid of that or whatnot, it's just a little concerning safety wise. Like, I know I've had like random child try to get in my car before, and like, I just am concerned about what's stopping some, random person from picking your child up, or someone taking someone else's child. And I would like to think as a community that wouldn't happen, but I just am a little concerned safety wise.
Sure.
So each summer, the administrative team looks at their process for pickup, dismissal. We look at our bus times and our start and end times to figure out the safety concerns, as you're alluding to, and efficiencies. Each year, we seem to make a little slight changes to, based on the number of students and the number on the bus versus pickup, as well as where our daycares are. So we will certainly look, and I would appreciate if you can put that feedback in the form when you do that, but we will bring it up as an administrative team to ensure that. We do, it used to be a sign-in process and kids used to just come all out and meet their parents. This is definitely a more streamlined process, but there are still glitches. So I appreciate your feedback, and we'll continue to look at how we can tighten up our protocols. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, Edgecombe is next.
Hello, my name is Deidre, and I have 2 kids. One's going to be in 2nd grade at SPS next year, and one's apparently now at Libby Tozier for pre-K next year. You said that COVID helped definitely with the pushing for restructuring. Do you think it only helped because you're not hearing negative feedback from parents who absolutely do not want this change? Or like, because I know before it has been shut down several times. Because parents from Sabattis want the Sabattis primary school and parents from Litchfield want the Litchfield. Do you think that has impacted it, like as far as being able to do the restructuring, or?
Sorry, I lost some of that. Say that again, please. I apologize.
So the restructuring has been tried a few times before and has been shut down from town members. I know Sabattis wants to keep SPS, and Litchfield had wanted to keep Litchfield when it had been shut down before. Do you think now with like COVID time, with the Zooms and all of this, that it just seems like it's a good time because you're not hearing the negative feedback?
We are
Yeah.
definitely hearing negative feedback. We're getting, you know, all
Yep.
kinds of phone calls and suggestions, and we're taking it all in. So I just want to be clear that our reorganization and restructuring are two different things. So we're reorganizing our district into those different buildings in the restructure to help with physical distancing. The restructure, which is, I don't know, 3-5 years away, and will be a full process with the board and the community members. And that's been a process that they've been talking about for even prior to I being in the district, 7 years. Maybe Robbie Gayton can give you a timeline as a board member, but certainly the reorganization, it was good timing to COVID, and it helps us get to that 5-year plan. The restructure is another component. So,
and then also, are the teachers being heard as far as whether or not they want to change schools, or like, are their concerns just not?
So we have a process with our CPT team. We've asked for feedback and surveys. We have been doing a lot of our Wednesdays. We've been doing a lot of planning and about what their needs are. Our staff got to choose, first, second, and third choice of what they want to teach next year. We're trying to give them as many resources they can. We always look and start with our vision and what our impact to our student is, and then we go to our staff and then our community members for sure. It's not always a popular decision, but we certainly are trying to get to the end goal of impacting and giving the best educational experience for our students. And for right now in our COVID world, trying to get to 5 days in person. And these suggestions and moves are the best way we can do that.
Can I just say something real quick?
Well,
Sorry, this is Tucker's mom. Sorry, I lost connection, but I just wanted to comment too about the teachers being heard aspect. Because from what I've seen in my little time here, I've had wonderful teachers, like better teachers at Sabatis Primary than in my old district. But I am concerned that some decisions are being made without hearing the teachers out. I feel like the teachers kind of just are being like pulled in all directions in terms of like what, like the last minute Wednesday cancellation for the videos. Like, I don't understand why the teachers aren't having more say in that.
So we do have teacher representatives at the collaborative planning team where the decisions, are recommended to the board. That decision, like on a Wednesday, is a pre-K 5 decision that was determined by the team leaders and the leadership team at the buildings. That's not a district decision. So the leadership team, which is representative of teachers, are part of that process. So that would be something that would be brought up at the building level, not necessarily at the district level. That's not something we get involved in.
I think too, it's important. Change is hard. We know that when you've done something one way for a long time, it's hard, and we are responsive to that. And certainly, I would echo what you said. We have fabulous educators in RSU 4. I say that all the time because we really do. I've worked in 4 school districts, and I've been here now for 10 years, and our educators are top notch. They just are. And certainly we enjoy their feedback. I enjoy hearing from them, and we take in all things. Sometimes there are decisions that have to be made, to move the RSU forward. But we are certainly cognizant of the fact that change is hard, and we want to be respectful of that.
And I appreciate that, because as we move forward, we are certainly going to ask for their feedback. They are going to get a preview before the community members regarding our CPT updates, and as well as our plan before it goes out to the community. So they will get a preview prior to.
All right. Let's see. Dodie has a class size question.
Yes, I was just curious because
I can't hear you.
I think we lost you.
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't know if it's just me.
All right, so we'll come back to you, Dodie.
Maybe she can type it in the chat, maybe.
Yeah,
Heard
you
that
want it? You there?
the class
Ooh, I think your connection's bad.
size for next.
Dodie, if you want to type the question in the chat, I will read it. Next question I have, let's see. I talked about the addition when we were talking about that. If fifth graders are moved to the middle school next year, will they be on the middle school arrival and dismissal time? The answer to that is yes, they will be on that, the secondary run. Becky asks, what is the STEM program for the summer at Oak Hill Middle School? How do students get into that? I would recommend you contact the middle school. I don't know if Kathy, you want to add to that?
Actually, I would defer to Ben Wilson, who's on the call today, but I don't know if Ben is available. Maybe not. So I am doing a lot more of the planning on the pre-K 5. Ben is doing a lot of the planning and supporting. Oh, I hear him. I see him unmuting.
Hey guys, yeah. So just give the school a call. We sent out a sent out an interest sheet to parents recently, and we've used that feedback. A lot of parents said they're going to wait for a teacher recommendation for our summer program, but love to have your child join us.
And it will look different than in previous years. The high school format in the 9-12 is still going to be a credit recovery process. And that will look very similar, but they will have aligned session dates with our RISE program to work on adding transportation for our students as well as food.
And we're doing original instruction. So we're, in the past, we've done sort of a credit recovery at the middle school, but this year it's going to be original instruction. So there'll be STEM classes instead of kids making up homework. So.
All right, let's see here. Go back to Dodie. Dodie, thank you for putting it in the chat. I'm just wondering about class size. I was told that my third graders class could only hold 12 kids with 3-foot social distancing. I'm wondering how next year they will be able to fit 15 to 20. So, it's averaging 15 to 20. One of the things we're doing is removing tons of stuff from classrooms. But with the 3-foot, 3-foot mouth to mouth now, we're able to get more desks in classrooms and things like that. So I think overall our spacing is going to be significantly better in the fall. Certainly that will all come out. Let's see, going back here. Let's see, Erica asks, we were wondering why the Wednesday elementary Zoom meetings had been discontinued. I'm gonna turn that over to Kathy.
Yeah, so the feedback from our teachers when they were meeting and to get ready for the reorganization. So you can understand like today and next Wednesday, we had pre-K K screenings. So we have a lot of staff that are working on that. We are also getting ready for our placement. So putting kids into classes for next year, which takes a lot of organization in terms of all the different cohorts, as well as from students from different buildings. And as well as our staff need time to kind of work together to get ready to work together for the next year. So there's a lot of meetings that need to happen. And so they just needed more time. And so we were trying to honor that. As well as we have MEA testing that we have to do. We have cohort D, our fully remote students are been coming in to do testing as well as AP testing in the different grade spans. And we just can't do that if we're teaching SEL as well as doing testing, as well as allowing our teachers to have the time to do the planning and all of the work that they need to do. So it was asked at team leaders, was what I heard, and the administration decided to make that change.
I was just, because it was our question, if you don't mind jumping in here.
Yeah.
Was it deemed as valuable time educationally for the kids when it was being used?
So it's not that it was not valuable or not valuable. The piece was we have so many Wednesdays left to get so much work done with the testing. So it was like looking at what our current workload is to get ready for this fall plan, and what time we have to do that. And so the only way to do that was to reduce the SEL and the planning time that goes into that. So I was not part of those conversations or decisions. If you have concerns, I would reach out to your building administrators, because that decision was made at that building level, not at the district level. So I really don't know much about the ins and outs of that. But I would say for us at the district level, we know here's what the to-do list is for our staff, and we were trying to honor that they were asking for more time.
I
Okay.
had actually reached out days ago to both principals about the concern about the Wednesday Zoom meetings, because I think that they were so valuable, and teachers all seemed upset that all of a sudden they can't do those. And, kids already are there so little that, that extra time face to face was helpful. And no one has responded to me.
Okay, so
from those emails.
if that's the case, please let me know and we'll make sure we get back to you.
So
Okay.
I'll give you an example of what today would have looked like. So pre-K, K teachers would have canceled because they have screening. Our 3, 4, 5 teachers have, for some of the teachers, they would have canceled because they have MEA testing, as well as some makeups for 6 through 8, as well as our high school 4 AP exams. So there would be a lot of ones that would have been changed because of either screening or testing and such. So
I guess that's another concern, is that when you're saying MEA testing, like, I thought that all of us parents had to be in charge of MEA testing at home.
it depends on the cohort and what grade you are. There are some MEA testing that is done in person. There are screenings that are done in person, as well as AP testing that's done in person. So it just depends on the test and the grade level of your child, as well as for students that aren't attending those remote sessions, we actually have to do makeups in person.
I mean, all the cohorts listed on the paper I got for different grades all said that it was done at home. Like, the 2 days of the tests were done at home, just various days of the week.
Yes, but we have some students who are not attending, and we also have students who have accommodations that need to do it in a different place.
Yeah, I guess who makes the decisions whether the MEAs are done at home or not? Because I think that was a very poor choice as well.
There was determinations at the state of what how we had to administer it, and so we're following guidelines at that level.
I mean, when I contacted MEA, they said that they were encouraging all schools to be doing it in person.
The MEA meaning the state?
Yes.
Because
that's not the messages that we have, and
Yeah.
I have weekly meetings, but if you need support, you can feel free to contact me.
Okay, let's see. Moving on here. Trying to get through the chat here. Sorry. Kay Willette has a quick question.
Yeah, I was curious. I kind of catching bits and pieces of this with doing it on a Zoom, not being able to be in person and focus. But I was wondering, I heard something about enrollment numbers, and you guys were kind of counting on the people coming back. And how much were we looking at for each person that comes back? Was it $7,500 per kid or something?
It is. It depends on a host of factors, but right now it's between 7,500 to 7,900.
Okay.
Depending
And what do we-
on enrollments, staffing sizes, the essential programs and services funding model is extremely convoluted. There's about 3 people in the state that actually understand the entire thing. It's very, very convoluted, but There are a host of factors, enrollments, valuations, staffing numbers, things like that, that go into getting that student reimbursement number.
Okay, and that's supposed to go towards next year's budget, is that correct?
Well, yeah, so that's what we get for revenue from the state. As far as the state share of education in RSU 4, there's two pieces to the essential programs and services funding model. There's the required local share. So that's the money you have to raise locally to then get the state money to you. So there's a whole formula for that.
Okay, and what if, I guess one of the things that I'm seeing is not many people know about this reorganization, restructuring right now. So we're gonna have, some disappointed people when they find out. If they choose to look into other alternatives, which kind of two-part thing here, I don't think they're gonna have enough time potentially to search for other alternatives. And if people do want other alternatives, what number do we get to that's gonna affect the budget by not getting these numbers per student? So if we have 100 kids that don't enroll that you're counting on because either they're homeschooling because they don't like the new systems, or they go to the Catholic whatever down the road, or some kind of private school. Let's say we have 100 kids, that's $750,000 out of the budget.
Yeah,
What does that do to your plan? Anything? Or
well, it's not going to change, what we're doing, but it certainly will affect what we ask for budgetary wise in the next fiscal year. It changed. One of the things about EPS that's really hard is a lot of it depends on, it's got those factors of student enrollment, valuations, things like that. And then it's also about the amount of money that the state actually puts through the formula. So it really depends on all those factors. I can't tell you, I can't even project because I don't know. We're looking at a new biennial budget as well.
Sure. Okay. And with respect to that as well, is a lot of the people that we're talking to don't know about this. I think I heard you say you kind of got a plan mapped out for it, but I feel like it's not really being shared. Kind of going back to one of the comments about, these meetings are on Zoom, not in person. A lot of people aren't attending them the same. How come people aren't finding out about the restructuring earlier so they can have time to enroll their kids in other places if they choose to? It seems like it's going to be a last minute announcement. A lot of people are asking questions about next year right now, about 5 days a week, but they don't even realize that kids might not even be going to the same school. When are we going to start letting everyone know what the plan is?
We did this at a board meeting. We did community Zooms. There's a bunch of information on the Facebook page, on the website that's been out for quite a few months. Actually, Kathy and I did a community Zoom when, Kathy?
Beginning of February.
Beginning of February about this.
Yeah.
We had about 100 people on it, I think. The video's up.
Okay, because I just feel like, as far as technology goes, we're right on top of the seesaw. We love seesaw and what the parents are doing with that. As far as Facebook goes, we try to avoid Facebook. We're not big fans of the social media environment. I understand that it definitely has good things to it, but that's not how we get our information. We are signed up for all the emails, and I feel like that my household has heard about this through the grapevine, not through any of the things that we're signed up through with the school.
Okay, and I know when we did the community Zoom, we actually pushed it out through Infinite Campus to emails and things like that. So I apologize that you didn't get the notice, but we very well publicized across the district.
So if it's so well publicized, how come so many people we speak to have no idea this is going on? I'm not trying to blame you or anyone. I'm just saying, I don't think we're kind of going back to the point that someone brought up. There's less negative feedback because people don't know about it. How do we let more people know?
In the fall plan, it does have a piece of the reorganization and the new structure of each school. So if people missed it in the January fall information, they will get that in the fall draft as well to give us feedback.
Okay.
And that will go out next Friday.
Okay. And I believe I heard you say something about it all starts with a vision, and then it goes through the board, and then the staff, and then the community finally.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Typically, yes. Our process is yes.
Okay, so the community is going to find out about the plan, the very last. Are they going to have an opportunity to give their input?
Yeah,
Yes.
so the draft plan is going out next Friday. And we'll have an opportunity. There will be a link to provide feedback to us. A lot of people do just email or call us that want to discuss it a little bit further, but we're welcome to do that. But you will have an opportunity. We will send out the draft next Friday. We will post it on the website. We'll post it through social media. We can even send it through Infinite Campus and hopefully get some feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, so that the CPT team can make the best plan possible for our students and staff.
Okay, and I definitely appreciate you guys being open to phone calls. It's definitely good, but it unfortunately, like at this meeting, I've heard a lot of good points by everyone else that's talked so far. And when it's a phone call one-on-one, unfortunately, I don't hear those points.
Well, that's
So
good.
I'd like to make sure that there's ample opportunity for the community to hear what's going on, understand the plan, and kind of have their input. Because as far as I know, as far as next fall goes, is this like a definite, the kids are definitely going to these schools, or is there still a vote that the community is going to have at your referendum or something?
The board voted on this quite a while ago.
Okay, and the board consists of 7 people?
It's 9. They're
9,
elected.
okay, 9.
Yep, by the communities. So it's an election process. Terms are anywhere from 1 to 3 years.
I just feel like this is a pretty big decision to let 9 people control it. I feel like, there should be a lot more of the community involved. One of the things I'm thinking is the ultimate goal is to get an addition at the middle school. And I believe your timeline, you're thinking about 3 years. And I feel like we're putting a lot of effort right now, which is affecting our classes right now. That Wednesday Zoom meeting was very valuable to a lot of people. And I believe a lot of the teachers did appreciate it. The meetings that you're requiring those teachers to go to right now to get the transition next year going, is there any possibility that these couple buildings can make it another 3 years so that we can skip all this, keep life the way it is, and then eventually in 3 years, when the addition's built, then we can go ahead and take the steps we need so we're not, fast tracking this?
Well, and one of the things that we're doing, and I talked about it earlier, was the reorganization is actually helping us to shrink class sizes. One of the issues that we've had is spacing due to our class sizes being so high. So once we make these adjustments, we have more teachers at each grade level, because we take the teachers from, the kindergarten teachers at Libby-Tozier and the kindergarten teachers at Sabattis Primary, put them together, and then be able to spread the students out through those classes. So we're actually shrinking class sizes.
Well, and I think that's valuable for sure. So yeah, you can throw a couple of checkers on that side of the scale. However, shrinking class sizes is only one idea right now. What about all the moving around? For instance, I have a daughter who's in pre-K. By the time she graduates from RSU 4, she will have been in 7 schools. She would have transferred schools 7 times. And I'm not real crazy about that. I'm fortunate. I went to Wales Central when Wales Central existed, K through 8. I got roots in this town, and that's why I moved back here. I want my family to have roots, and jumping from school building to school building to school building in her lifetime isn't at all what I was hoping for.
Well, currently we only have 5 buildings. So if a student, starts at Sabattis Primary currently, they will transition to Carey Ricker, then to the middle school, then to the high school. So they will have been in 4 school buildings.
Is kindergarten going to be at Libby-Tozier next year?
Yes.
Okay, so she's going to leave Sabattis Primary this year and go to Libby-Tozier next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's going to come back to Sabattis Primary.
Yes.
And then she's going to go to Carey Ricker.
Mm-hmm.
And then the middle school. And then the high school.
Yes.
It is concerning.
It is, right? Well, and that's what I'm saying. So you're talking about shrinking classroom sizes as kind of your main goal. Well, like you said, we've had incredible teachers teach our 2 girls at Sabattis Primary. They've done an amazing job with the class size the way it is right now. To move forward for 3 years without all this juggling around and then go into the new building, I think that should be an option that the community can have a voice on. I'm not sure how much the 9 members of the board kind of looked at those aspects of the situation.
So I do appreciate, and the class sizes is certainly one aspect of the decision to reorganize, creating essentials classes and getting our staff of the same grade under one building. There's many benefits to this. I do hear you, and I do want your feedback. And when the draft comes out next Friday, I would suggest that you add your feedback to that form so that all the members can see it. The board will see it, the CPT team will see all of those pieces, as well as we record all our CPT meetings, so you'll be able to see those discussions. So feel free to add your feedback to that draft plan.
Okay.
All right, we're almost to 7:30. I'm going to take one more. Isla, I think, has her hand up. Not there. Isla, are you there? Unfortunately, I think you're
Isla, we can't hear you, so if you could type your question in the chat, it'll take less bandwidth, and we can answer your
Hey,
question that way.
Andy, it's Laura. When is the board meeting in person?
So I just had a couple things just to mention. I'm one of the many original Wales residents. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
yes.
I'm unmuted.
Go ahead, Isla, we can hear you. I'm not sure she can hear us.
All right. Laura had a quick question. I heard her. She actually typed it in the chat. When will the board start meeting in person? That'll be a discussion at the board level. I can't answer that right now. They are meeting by Zoom, but we will, certainly the board will continue to talk about that. There is a bill in front of the legislature to make some of this permanent, meeting by Zoom. I'm not so sure how I feel about that, but ultimately that will be a board decision. All right.
Just one last question quick for Kathy is how many members are on that CPT or CBD team or whatever it is?
I don't know how many were on the original team and then get to the district level. We had probably 50 to 75 community members and teachers and administrators that were on the original think tank to create our last fall plan. I would say, I don't know, we're 12 to 15.
I think we're going to be, by the time we add a few people, we'll be at 15 or 16 at that point.
And again, they're not decision makers. They make recommendations for the board.
To the board. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Last question, and then certainly there will be more information coming. We're going to be asking for feedback. Carol asked me, are there term limits for board members? Yes, board members are elected officials. You can find that information on our website. It is there. It has been updated recently. So. All right. Well, thank you all. Certainly, at one point we had 122 people on this call, and ultimately they're all great questions. If you have more, we will certainly take them. We'll be asking for feedback. But one of the things to look for on the website will be a frequently asked questions page, and we will keep updating that a lot. I would encourage you all to go to our website. There's a ton of information there with regards to reorganization, the budget, and our planning. So I would encourage you there. If you have questions, obviously, please reach out. Thank you all for coming tonight.